Hey everyone, my name is Max Kasler and I'm the new Springboard Fellow for Hillel at Ithaca College, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make challah. So let's get to it. Oy vey. Okay, for starters, let's talk ingredients. I have limited counter space in my small apartment, so I don't have room to display everything all at once, but we'll make do. Okay, so here's what you're gonna need. You'll need 2 tablespoons of active dry yeast, half a teaspoon of sugar, 1.5 cups of warm water, about 110 to 115 degrees, or just make sure it's warm but not hot. 5 large eggs, 2/3 cup of honey, half a cup of canola oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, and then 6 to 7 cups-ish of bread flour. The amount of flour that you use might change, and that's okay. It really depends on the humidity of the environment you're in, but we will add little bits of water and flour depending on what we need to make sure we get the right consistency of the dough. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So, I use bread flour. Bread flour has a higher percentage of protein, which does something for the dough. Okay, so protein. The protein is used to produce gluten, and you want glutinous challah dough. So, let's get started. Okay, so we're in my kitchen. It's super tiny, but we gonna make do. I use a stand mixer, but you don't have to. You can use your hands and a bowl, the good old-fashioned way. I only recently started using a stand mixer, so totally use your hands if you don't. I have yet to find a bread hook in Ithaca, so I'm going to be using like this mixer attachment. Sometimes the flour goes everywhere, and that's okay. Oh, I need to get the flour. So this is Big Bertha. Yes, I did name the bag of flour. I bought a 25-pound bag of flour bulk at Green Star, the food co-op in Ithaca, because I make challah every week, so I figured this was a good investment, and I named it Big Bertha because why not? For starters, I'm going to take a measuring cup and fill it with 1.5 cups of water and stick it in the microwave for like 15-20 seconds, enough to get it warm but not hot. Oh, this process in total should take you about 3 hours. The dough takes about 45 minutes to make, and then you have to let it rise for about an hour and a half. Then you braid the challah, you let it rise for another 30 minutes, and then you bake it for about 30 to 40 minutes. So in total, it should be about 3 hours, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Depends on your luck with making the dough. Okay, anyway, we have our measuring things. So we're gonna do a half teaspoon of regular granulated sugar into, wow, oh my god, I'm having so much trouble. There we go. Half a teaspoon of sugar, and then 2 tablespoons of yeast. Feels like a lot. That's okay. It's bread. Then I have my yeast. I keep it in a bag, that way it doesn't, it's like airtight, and also lots of little particles could go everywhere. Okay, so that's the 2 tablespoons of yeast in. You can see the little particles floating around. Mmm, yummy. Smells like bread. And you're gonna take, you can just like take anything. I'm just gonna use a knife to mix it around. Stir it up a bit. That way everything's like nice and mixed up. Okay, so you're gonna take this nice little, it looks like coffee, won't taste like coffee though. You're gonna put that to the side and leave her alone for a little while. You also can put the sugar away. Now it's time to get mixing, right? I have these little like bowl cup thingies. These will be super helpful if you have them. If not, it's not the most important thing in the world. So next we're gonna start to add ingredients. So I'm gonna get the eggs. So you need five eggs. And with 2 of the eggs, you're only going to put in the yolk. You're gonna separate the egg white. So let's do that. So we can leave that there, that's fine. Great. I like crack it into here so you don't get any eggshells in. We're gonna add 1, 2, 3 whole eggs into the mixer bowl. Separate the egg white and the egg yolk. I totally didn't get a good angle for this one, but basically you're gonna pass the egg yolk back and forth between the 2 halves of the shell, and the egg white will like drop into the thing below, and then you're left with just the egg yolk, and that goes in the mixer. So when you crack it, you pass it back and forth so that the egg white drops into the bowl below. So now you should have 2 egg whites in a separate container. You can't really see it because it's clear. I'm gonna put this in the fridge. All right, so we now have 5 little eggies in the mixing bowl. Done with the eggs, they can go back in the fridge. Save them for next week or for something else. You can do whatever you want with your eggs. So we're gonna use half a cup of canola oil, and that's gonna go into the mixer as well. All right, we got half a cup of canola oil. It's gonna go into your bowl. We're gonna add 2/3 of a cup of honey. This takes a while for it to like pour out. So this is 2/3 cup. Wow, I'm a lefty and I'm using my right hand. 2/3 a cup of honey. You know that video? I'm gonna so you can see my face as I'm squeezing. You know that video of the woman doing the sponge art, and she goes, I squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. No flab on this arm. Flab on this arm. I feel like that's what I feel like when I'm squeezing the honey into the, because it goes so slowly. Huzzah. Okay. So we have our 2/3 cup of honey, and I like using this like tall skinny spatula to help get things out of the, anyway. So we have our 2/3 cup of honey. We're gonna dump that right in. And then I'll use this to sort of like scrape out any of the extra stuff that didn't come out with the initial pour. Okay. I could eat honey like straight out of the container. Okay, the last thing, I think it's the last thing that goes into our bowl right now is the salt, right? Eggs, honey, oil, salt. Oh, and then we'll start adding flour. Okay, 2 teaspoons of salt. Fun fact, so one time I was making challah, I did a gap year in Israel, and I made challah on my gap year, And I forgot 2 important ingredients, sugar and salt. So not only did my challah taste like sourdough, but salt has a retarding effect on yeast. So if you forget salt, instead of winding up with 2 loaves of challah, which is what this recipe makes, you'll wind up with maybe 4 or 5 or 12. I didn't end up with 12, but okay. So 2 teaspoons of salt are going to go right in. Whoa, that overflowed. So I'll make the second one small. Okay. 2 teaspoons of salt. And now we're going to start mixing. So I'm going to turn the mixer on to like stir. Great. So I'm going to add 3 cups of bread flour slowly to integrate it into this mix of the wet ingredient. We need the measuring cup. I'm going to leave Big Bertha on the floor. Okay, we have our first cup of flour. I think I need to get a bigger bowl for this mixer because sometimes alright, not yet, but sometimes the flour goes everywhere. And while that's mixing, I'll get my second cup ready. Alright, we'll add our second cup of flour. You can already start to see the dough's getting sticky. Okay. Woo! Alright, this is the point where I maybe stop using... Oh! Wow. This bread flour makes the dough really dark. I don't know what it is, but... And then at this point... At this point, we're going to add our water yeast mixture, our water yeast mixture, which you can see the yeast has been proofing and it's gotten frothy. It kind of looks like a latte. I promise, it doesn't taste like a latte, but it looks like one. So we're going to add this little mixture into... It's like more bubbly than it usually is. I guess we'll see what that does. But anyway. I at this point will also probably stop using the stand mixer because the bowl that I have is really it's not very big, and so everything will go everywhere. But I can finish it off by hand. Back, I got rid of the stand mixer. So this is what our bowl looks like right now. It's still got that like soupy water yeast mixture because I haven't added anything else. But we're gonna need another like 3-ish cups of bread flour. So I'm gonna add, this is cup number 4. And there's cup number 5. Oh no. Oh, I just spilled so much. Alright, here we go with our hands. I try to only use one hand just to prevent too much, like, at least I try to only use one hand so that I have a hand to like do normal people things with, because this hand is very quickly going to get sticky and covered in dough and flour. And you're just going to work this dough until all of the flour is incorporated. I'll do it over here a little bit further back so you can see. You can see your hands are going to get really covered in challah particles rather quickly. So now, the biggest, like, task at hand is going to be getting the right consistency of the dough. You want it to be sticky, but you want it to be able to hold its own shape in the bowl and not like stick to the sides. And you don't want any flour to be on the like surface like it is right now. And you don't want it to be too wet because then it sticks. So consistency is pretty hard to get right, but once you do it once you get it, I feel like it's one of those things that the first couple of times I just followed the recipe really like to the T, but then when I learned about dough consistency, so right now the dough is like, it's like pretty well mixed. There's like the flour's like not super duper sticking to the outside, but it's too sticky and it's not able to like super duper hold a shape. It like sort of sinks in. So we're gonna need to add some more flour. If it's too sticky, you add flour. If it's too dry, you add water in like teeny tiny increments. And like really just like a sprinkle, a spritz of flour at a time. And you're just gonna work the dough so that the flour gets incorporated. Yeah, it's still too sticky. Like if you try to like, yeah, it was like sticking to the bottom of the bowl. So we gonna add a little more flour on top of Old Smoky, I guess. So like, let's see if I can show you. Like, you can see how the dough is like sticking to the sides and it's not forming. Oh, here's like a pocket where the flour needs to get mixed in. But you can see how the dough, oh, there I go, both hands. The dough needs to be able to like hold its own. I think this needs some more flour still. Yeah, for sure it does. It is, like this is stuck to my hand. It's just a glob of dough. Oh my goodness. Okay. It's still sticking to the bottom of the bowl, but it's getting there. We're close. But she still needs a little bit more flour. This part really depends on like where you are. If it's not as humid out, you won't need as much flour because it won't be as moist, your dough. Yeah. It's like still adhering to the sides, like I'm pulling on it. And it needs to be able to separate and form its own shape. This might be it, he says optimistically, but doesn't want to get his hopes up. Okay, let me see if I can show you this. So you can see that like there's no flour sticking to the outside, and when you pull it away, it can hold its ball shape. Like if I do this, it'll start to roll in the bowl and can hold its own shape, which is great. That's exactly what we want for our dough. Just gonna knead it a little bit more because there was still some flour in little pockets. Like it'll come away from the sides if you shake it like that and sort of be its own ball of dough. That's a great sign. This is going to be our dough. Now we let it rise for an hour and a half, and yeah, we'll be back.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Alrighty, it is time to check on the challah. It's been an hour and a half. Whoa, I didn't actually take it out. I did this a couple times because it was overflowing. But this is nice and fluffy. So now we can get to braiding. So I'm going to set up we're going to take the challah out. Wow. Oh, it's so light and fluffy. This is perfect. The other thing you need to do at this point is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's get started. We have now this big piece of dough. We're going to split it in half, about like that, to make two different loaves. And I'm actually gonna grab a separate mixing bowl and just put half of it in there and set it aside for now. Just so that we have more space to work with. So, let's get started, shall we? You're going to take this dough and break it off into, you're going to try to get 3 even pieces. I like to toss it back and forth to sort of feel it out. Visually, I know that this one is smaller, so I'm going to take a little bit off. Still a bit. That should be about fine. Okay. Then you're going to roll these out. All right, so you're going to roll them out into your strands. And you'll see that these two, there's my laptop. So now they're about this, you're going to get them so that they're about the same length. And then I'll take this last one and do the same thing. So now we've got 3 strands, and then this is how I like to braid it. So you take one strand, put it diagonally, make an X, and then take your 3rd strand and place it parallel to the first one so that they're going different, so you're sort of making the braid. Then working from this way down, hold on, let me move this closer so that you can see. So we've set it up so it's got this lattice thing, and then you're gonna reverse braid by going underneath each of the strands for this, and then you can just braid normally up to the top, and then sort of just tuck in the ends so that you have a nice braided challah. And then I'll put this off to the side so that I have, now I'm going to take the second half of the dough and basically repeat the same stuff. Dun, 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 dun. Look at that. Ooh. So the next step is letting these rise again for another half hour, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what happens in half an hour.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, I'm back, and my apartment has no air conditioning, and the oven is preheated to 350 degrees, which means it's hot and sweaty in this kitchen. Let's get the challahs in the oven. But look, they got so big. I'm actually gonna move one of them. Wow, that feels like a cloud. Oh, wow. Wow, I'm excited. Okay, so now we've got one challah per tray. To maybe like center it a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna need the 2 egg whites that you saved from earlier. I'm gonna get those out of the fridge. And if you have like a paintbrush, you can get one of those. I got one of these from Target. I don't know if I love it, but it gets the job done. It's like a brush type thing. And you're just gonna egg wash the chalot. Very generously, you will apply the egg white to the outside of the challah. This gives it a nice shiny brown finish when it comes out of the oven. So we're just gonna, maybe I'll like fast forward through this because it's not boring. Okay. Something that I like to do is make flavored chalot by adding things. So I'm gonna make one regular loaf, but this is my favorite. It's from Trader Joe's. It's called Everything But the Bagel Sesame Seasoning Blend. And basically, it's what is on the top of an everything bagel in a jar. And so I'm going to sprinkle that on one of these chalot. I'll do this one. If you're making like bagels, apply generously. You can your hand like throw that side to the sides. Great. Then you'll try to collect the extra. Put it on top. Okay, so we have the egg wash on, and we've got bagel seasoning. My sister calls this bagel sauce. So Sarah, if you see this, shout out to you for calling everything seasoning bagel sauce. So I put the bagel sauce on the challah, and then this is going to be a regular loaf, and the oven over here. Now you're not going to be able to see the oven. The oven is preheated to 350 degrees, and you're going to put the challahs in for 30 minutes. You're going to check on them at 30 minutes and then decide if they need more time. I can just smell how great this is going to be. We're going to take the chalot out, and I'm going to show you what to look for to see if it's done. So, oh, I only have one oven mitt, and I should have gotten another. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look. Oh my god. Alright, so this is still really hot, but wow. Wow. Okay, so with challah, I have these skewers. If you have a toothpick, that works fine as well. But basically, you're just gonna try to find the like thickest part, stick it in, and see if anything comes out with it. If any dough sticks to the skewer, you might need to give it some more time. I think they're done. Look how beautiful they look. So now I'm just gonna let them sit. This one looks like a pretzel. Oh my god, I'm
I'm so excited.
So that's it. Those are the steps to making challah for Shabbat. It's traditionally made for Shabbat, but honestly, it's delicious and you can make it whenever you want and eat it whenever you want. Because why not? It's yummy and it's fun to make. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I'm wishing you and your family a safe and healthy Shabbat. So yeah, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.